Hi guys, welcome back. Today on the podcast we have Laura Fountain. She's known as the Lazy Girl Running on Instagram. Passionate about helping women to love running, which we really love because that's probably one of our passions too. A reviews editor, columnist, and coach for Women's Running UK mag. She knows her stuff. She's also a tutor on the England's athletic courses. So yeah, lots of information and knowledge there about running, which we're hoping to tap into. Laura competed in her first Hyrox in London last year, and that's when we started chatting. So we're really buzzing to have you on the podcast to talk all things Hyrox and running. So welcome to the podcast, Laura.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to talk to some other people about it because I think I've bored all my friends and family with talking about Hyrox now. They've gone from what is that to, no, we don't need to hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we bore everyone talking about it all the time now, but it's nice to do it on the podcast and bring our listeners some more tips and tricks and information from all different people in the community. So maybe you could start your running background, and maybe you could kind of let us know a little bit more about how you got into running first, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, so I started running in 2008. And I was working in an office at the time in South London, like behind the Tate Modern, before there was anything there. And I was working at a cancer charity. So it was quite heavy going. And I did no exercise at all at that point. I'd kind of avoided it all the way through school. I was one of those people that forged a note from my mum to get out of PE. But there was a gym opened up, and that was something that I could do at lunchtime that was away from the heavy stuff that I was dealing with for work. So I went to the gym, and I didn't really like anything else in there. I was felt quite intimidated by the weight section. Some of the machines scared me. The cross trainer looked a bit, I didn't know what to do with that. But the treadmill made sense to me and it was tangible. And I think what I liked about it was that even though my very first run, and I say run with air quotes, I did 1.14 kilometers on the treadmill, and that took me 14 minutes. So there was a lot of run walking there. But I knew, because I know how far that is, because I wrote it down in a little notebook. And every time I went, I wrote down what I did. And I could, because this was before Strava and before all the tracking apps that we have now. But I could write it down every time. And as long as I could see that I was making progress, that was motivating me to keep going. So that's where the name The Lazy Runner comes from. So that was 2008. 2010, I did my first marathon, and I've done 21 marathons now.
Oh, wow.
That includes a couple of ultras and one that was a on my own as part of a do-it-yourself iron distance triathlon. So it's fair to say that running changed my life, and I wanted to share that with other people. So I became a run leader and then a coach with England Athletics, and I set up my own running groups for women, taking beginners on that journey that I'd been through, but with a bit more information. There wasn't Couch to 5K when I started running. So I was a bit like finding my own path and learning through trial and error. So I wanted to help people along that path a little bit with a little bit more information and support than I had. So that was my running groups, and I thought maybe some people will turn up, maybe they won't. And then I had 20 runners sign up for that first one, and then for about 10 years they were full of runners, and we had beginners doing 0 to 5K, all the way through to improvers and people that were doing their marathons as well.
Oh, love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an epic journey, isn't it?
Yeah. I
I
think
love
it's
go on.
No, I was gonna say, I think it's so nice that you touch on that you could just keep going and keep motivated because you could see improvements. I think that's like a really big thing that helps people along their journey. And like you said, just by recording those, like that distance that you did on the treadmill, it made you want to kind of go back and keep going. And it doesn't matter where you start, like everyone starts from somewhere different, but you can make those improvements if you stay consistent. So it's really cool to hear. Yeah.
I think I found that I am quite goal motivated, and that's kind of what led me to Hyrox last year. And in the back of my mind, there was that idea of having a marathon. And my uncle had done London Marathon when I was a kid. I remember on Sunday morning once a year, my dad would put the TV on and say, "Oh, Uncle Steve's doing the marathon. Let's see if we can see him." And my mum had walked a marathon when I was about 10, 11, I think. And I remember watching her do that. And I think that had planted a seed somewhere that when I started running, even though I was so far off being able to do that, and I thought, well, people in my life that I knew had done that. You know, it wasn't just like elite people that I'd seen on the TV doing a marathon. So I thought, well, maybe at some point I could do that. And that was like the long-term goal and working towards that. And then when I had done it, I put my slip in for London Marathon, got rejected, did it again, got rejected, and I did Brighton as my first marathon. But then when I found out that you could get a good for age place if you got fast enough, that became the new thing to like, okay, I'm going to get fast enough so that I can get a good for age place and do London.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's so cool. I was going to ask what your first marathon was, because I was just intrigued. How did your first marathon go? Was it how you expected? Because obviously you must have worked towards it for a while,
Yeah,
and you obviously
so
had it as your big goal. But like some people work towards this big goal and then after they feel a bit lost. But how did it
yeah,
all go for you?
it was almost 12, almost 2 years exactly from when I started running to when I did my first marathon. I know I see a lot of people on social media do that journey a lot quicker. But for me, that was the right amount of time. I was going from absolute zero fitness to doing that marathon, and I think not just building the fitness, but getting your body strong enough to withstand the rigors of running a marathon is a really important thing that we don't often pay enough attention to. So when I eventually did it, I had all the fears that, oh my God, what if I can't do this? And I'm gonna have to stop. And I went up to 18 miles in my training, which I think still as a coach is plenty. A lot of runners want to do 20, they want to do more. 18 is plenty to do a marathon. Anything else is just for your mental confidence, but your body only needs that 18. And I remember a point because it was Brighton's first marathon as well as mine, which was kind of appropriate. And I remember a point about 23 miles as I was running along the coast, along the seafront, and you could see the pier in the distance. And I knew that that's where the finish line was. And a woman shouted out, because I had my name on my shirt, "Laura, you're going to do this." And I said out loud, like to myself, "Yeah, I am going to do it." And that was my moment. And that was when I got a bit emotional. I wasn't so emotional at the finish, but I was at that moment about 3 miles out when I realized, yeah, even if I have to walk it from here, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I think it's
Oh.
such an incredible experience, like running a marathon. I think once you get that feeling and you do get to the end or close to the end and you think, oh my God, I'm actually going to run and finished in 26.2 miles. Like, it's a long way. Even when you drive it in a car, you're like, this is a long way. And then I've just run it with my own two legs. Like, and to go from like not running to running a marathon is incredible. So then you like to kind of take people on the journey and support other people that are kind of getting into running. And do you have any tips for maybe someone that listening that's thinking of signing up for Hyrox, that's quite a gym goer but isn't really a runner, that maybe to help get them started in their running journey, and a few things they could do?
Yeah, I think the two things go together really well. I came to Hyrox obviously confident that I could do 8 kilometers, not a problem, but more intimidated by the other elements. But a lot of people I've spoken to are the opposite, and they are quite confident on all the exercise stations, but I'm not sure if I can do 8K. But it's broken up for a start, so that's 8 times 1 kilometer. And you don't have to run the whole way. What I loved was the inclusive language of Hyrox in terms of abilities. And I will, you know, I read all the instructions, everything. I was very rules conscious, but the fact that they didn't call it the fast and slow lane, it was the standard lane and the fast lane, and I loved that. And that standard lane, you can walk in it. There were plenty of people I saw walking, run walking, whatever they needed to do to get round. So I would say train to run. You know, you can start with something like Couch to 5K if you're starting from absolutely beginning. Look for local groups in your area. England Athletics have this thing called Run Together, where you can search for groups in your area. And a lot of people are put off by traditional running athletics clubs, but a lot of them are very inclusive and welcoming to beginners. So have a look and get in contact with them, because you'll find more people there. Even like in my club, there'll be people post on Facebook saying, "Oh, I'm just coming back from injury. Does anyone want to do a run walk today?" So even experienced runners go through those highs and lows where they need to come back and take it easy. But yeah, start with Couch to 5K if you're absolute beginner. I would aim to get up to 10K as a good amount of running if you're wanting to run those run sections. And there's plenty of 10K races round. Once you've got that park run done, go for a 10K as your goal. And then once you break it up with the exercises on the day, then you'll be all right. But don't be afraid to walk and take those breaks.
Yeah, I think that's super important, isn't it? I think it's really weird because I came from I've always run more to like just keep fit for something else, but I came from like probably a bigger bike background, and on bikes you go out and then you stop for a coffee or you have a break, or if you're mountain biking you stop at the top to put your pads on, you stop at the bottom. But whenever anyone goes for a run, they think they can't stop. Like it's like a thing that you go for a run and you just keep running, you don't stop. Whereas like in biking, you know, it's like this whole thing where you ride out to a coffee shop, you have your coffee, you go back. Like running seems to have this thing where everyone thinks they can't walk, they can't stop, they can't, like they just must keep running and keep a pace.
Yeah.
So it's nice sometimes to break that that like narrative that you just have to run, and sometimes it's fine to like run and walk, and sometimes it's fine to stop and have a second and take a photo if you're out on a run and just enjoy it. And then I think it brings that enjoyment, doesn't it? And like you're saying, on a Hyrox, just because everyone's running for 1K as fast as they can, it doesn't mean that for you you have to keep running. If as fast as you can is take a second and just do a little run walk, like so do a little walk to then get back into your running, like that's great. Like
Yeah.
whatever works for you. And it's nice to change that narrative, I think, sometimes, because I think when you've never been to like a venue and seen it, in your head you just think everyone's going to be powering round the track.
Absolutely.
And
I
then
think absolutely. I would think that's a good tip generally, is to if you're thinking that there's lots in the country now, that if you're thinking of doing one, go along and watch one as a spectator, or even if it's like yours is on the Sunday, go on the Friday and watch, and it will help you orientate you with what's going on and where everything is, but also you'll see the range of people there and their different approaches.
yeah, definitely. So then how did you find Hyrox to sign up from the running background, doing all the runs and the marathons? And did someone rope you in and say you have to give this a go, or how did it come across for you?
Well, because I spend a lot of time writing about running, and obviously Hyrox was this thing that kind of came into the running sphere, and I'd written a couple of pieces on it, and I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to have to go and do one now, aren't I? I've reviewed enough 10Ks and half marathons. Let's do this. So I do, all, you know, strength training is really important for all of us. It's really important for runners. I'd never consistently committed to it. I will always advise my runners to do it, but taking that advice myself, you know, we've all got busy lives, and that's the thing for me that I don't get excited by the same as I would go for a run. I don't need to motivate myself most of the time to go for a run. I'm like, okay, go for a run now, it's great. Even if it's raining, I'll go out, it's not a problem. But strength training, I really do have to psych myself up to go and do that. But I had a knee injury a few years ago, and it kind of niggled away and never really resolved. And then I saw a different physio, and I'd avoided like doing squats and things like that because I thought that was aggravating it. And she said, nope, you need to do more of that. And she she took away that fear of doing certain things. She gave me some exercises to do, and it really helped. And I think seeing the difference that that made to this issue, and then also the improvement that it was helping with my running, it gave me that more motivation to do it. But being goal orientated, there wasn't something that made me go, oh, okay, I've really got to do this twice a week, 3 times a week, or whatever. And then Hyrox came along, and I was like, okay, well, if I put that date in my diary, I know what I'm like, and I will want to do the best for me. You know, I didn't have any idea that I was going to be competitive at it. I wasn't going for a certain time, but I wanted to know that I prepared myself well enough to show up and be happy with how it went on the day. Even if I was the last person over the finish line, if I felt like I'd done everything I could to do well that day, then I would be happy. So I put that date in the diary, and it did. And I was training for a half marathon in the October, and then my Hyrox date was the very last day of November. It was London that kind of straddled the end of November, beginning of December, and it did motivate me. I went to my circuits class, that which I really enjoyed anyway, going to once a week. But I would run there, do the circuits class, and then run back home again. Yeah. So I'd added on that, you know, that running element to it. And then I picked up some specific Hyrox classes as well, which were invaluable. And the Hyrox, the coach there, she was great. And the advice and tips that she gave, I think that was really invaluable for me and helped make it much more, gave me the confidence for the day, and little things that helped make it a bit more successful for me on the day.
Yeah, that's a good tip there, though. If someone does like maybe go to a strength class or a circuits class or something, and they just want to add in that little bit of extra running or mileage, or get used to the feeling of running on tired legs, like if you don't live too far away and it is safe to run there and run back, that's a really good idea, just to fit it into your schedule. Like you say, everyone's busy and it's hard to try and get the time to fit this run in and this session in and do this and go to work and get back. Whereas if you can combine a couple of things, even if it's just 10 minutes jog there, 10 minutes jog back, it will start to like make a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, mine's actually tonight. So it's winter and it's 2 miles away and it's dark, so I'm not going to run there at the moment. Once those clocks change, I will be. And it also minimizes your showering and your washing, because it's all in one go. Like today, I've been out for a run, had a shower, and then I'll go out again tonight, and then I'll have another shower.
And sometimes you're like, I said that to Emma, I'm like, how have we got so much washing? And I think if you run, like, and then you go to the gym later, and then there's 2 of us, and then you've worn whatever you've worn for the day or for work, or like you just wash like all day, every day, you're just washing. I'm like looking over, I've got trainers in front of the fire as well, like drying out, especially for winter, hey?
Yeah.
Mental.
So top tip, everyone, sandwich your sessions and it's less washing. That's a great idea. Yeah. So what about the event of Hyrox? How did you find it? Like, what did you think of it? Coming from a running background, did you just think all I want to do is get onto that 1K lap? I just want to run. But what was going through your head at the event?
Yeah, so the runs for me were, I was like, these are going to be your recoveries, so recovering from the station. So I was trying to tell myself not to go too crazy on the runs, but it's really hard because that's such a fun little route. Like in the little hype box, I don't know, what is there a term for it, that box that you're in at the start where they play the videos?
Yeah, it's like a start pen, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's all there to get you excited, and there's that countdown clock, and nobody was going to the front in mine. I'm 43, so it was women of my age group, and nobody's going to the front. And I'm used to, like at parkrun, being in the top few females. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to go to the start because I'm used to being there, and everyone's a bit shy of going forward. So I went, and the run started, and I was on the shoulder of the person who was the lead runner, and you come out onto that track, and there's already people going round, and you're all fired up from the music and the videos, and you just go like a rocket. So I was like, I stayed on this woman's shoulder, and then I thought, hang on, I'm not gonna be competitive at all today, so I may as well enjoy this first kilometre. So I went to the front, and I was first off that first run section, and then got overtaken throughout the rest of the thing. But I had that nice moment. I ran into the ski erg, and they waved me down to that first spot, and I was like, okay. And then people went past me as I was still on the ski erg, and then I was probably third or fourth out, and then gradually I made my way back through the field to where I belonged. But it was fun, that first, and it feels really, I don't know if it's the combination of the excitement and being so close to the spectators and being indoors, which is a new experience for most runners. And the surface felt really fast as well, but I just felt like we were zooming round that little indoor track, and that was the really fun bit for me. The bits in between, less fun. But the sled pull, I just remember I was probably like fourth one into that bit, and then looking around at one point and it just feeling like it had completely emptied out. It was a long way to see the next person left in there, but I was there to finish it, complete, not compete, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I did. I estimated that it would, in my head I was like, oh, it's roughly like a half marathon in terms of effort for the day, and I'd run my half marathon in October in 1:37, and my Hyrox took 1:37. So I was like, okay, well, that was right, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think people,
fast half marathon.
yeah, but people do say, I think there's a lot of conversation about what running race is Hyrox similar to train like for, and a lot of people are, I think, erring towards the like half marathon because it's not quite as quick as a 10K, especially when you're a faster runner. I mean, the pros who are finishing in an hour, like I imagine their 10K times are going to be like 35 minutes. So that's too quick. It is more like the half marathon pace. So I think it's longer than people think. I think someone might initially think, oh no, it'll be more like my 5K or my 10K because you're just doing the 1K laps, but you forget that you add that with all your exercises, and it does start to become a longer, more endurance race. So I think you paced it perfectly. You got your glory moment at the start and then enjoyed the rest of the race.
I wouldn't say I enjoyed those wall balls at all, but the bits where I thought, well, this is all right. It's just, I have a friend that she said to me one time, as long as you keep moving forwards, you will eventually finish a marathon. And I was repeating that to myself about Hyrox. As long as I keep moving forwards, I know I will eventually finish this. And I know that I've done marathons, I've done ultra marathons and triathlons, and I don't bring any ego to it in terms of wanting to set, world records or anything, and or necessarily be competitive. And I've been right at the back of triathlons. I've been the last person on a bike, and that's okay. I'm doing my own thing, and I will just keep moving forwards. And that was what I did at Hyrox. I kept moving forwards, and it did eventually end.
Yeah, after that 100 walls, you're like, oh my God. I mean, it is a brutal way to finish the race, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we obviously, just asked you like some tips for people that don't run to get into running. How about people that do run, like yourself, that are thinking about giving Hyrox a go? Have you got any like tips for them to improve their experience at their first Hyrox if they're a really good runner, but maybe the strength isn't there, their level there?
So there's a running session, like there's a session called Oregon Circuits, which has been part of like it's a famous training session that's been around for years and years and years. Began in Oregon, which is like a track workout with exercises in between. So you run 400 meters pretty fast, like around 10k pace, and then you do squats or lunges or whatever after each lap, and you keep going for like 8-10 laps. So that's something that some runners have been doing for years and years and years, and that's basically like Hyrox. So a classic session like that is a great thing to do because it's getting you used to. So in running, why that was done was to give you those heavy legs going into your exercises. Giving you the heavy legs from exercise into going running. So that in the latter stage, it was replicating the latter stages of a marathon or something like that, where your legs really feel hard, but you're trying to keep your good form going on your run efforts. So you're not having to do as much intensity to get to that tired state through running because you're doing it through the exercises. So that's a good session because your running is going to be compromised by the exercises. So I would say mixing the two up as much as possible. If you're not doing any strength training at all, obviously you need to start. And then once you've got confident with it and you know what you're doing, bring the two together and do your running with tired legs, even if it means that most of the time I spend avoiding doing like if I do a strength session on a Thursday, I know if I get out early on a Friday, I can run before that heavy leg feeling sets in. Whereas if I'm going out, if I push it and I'm going to like Friday evening, I know that I'm going to struggle because my legs are going to be heavy. But it's maybe flipping that to say, when can I run when my legs are already tired and heavy from that, so that you replicate, not on all of your runs, but on some of them, give yourself that feeling of running on tired legs.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've obviously got some great mental strength because you've run multiple marathons. Is there anything you say to yourself except that just keep moving forward? Is there anything you draw on, or your previous training sessions or experience that keeps you moving forward, or in a marathon or in the Hyrox race?
I do like give myself rivals. I will pick somebody, usually a man, somebody that they know nothing about it, but they're like my biggest enemy now, and I'm going to make sure that I beat them. If someone's like elbow barge me or something like that, that is easy to go, right, you are now my nemesis, and let's go. And it's good, having that. I find in like running races, having those people to pick off, and it's a huge generalization, but I do find that men, and there is a bit of data to back this up, but women are better at even pacing of a race, whereas men tend to go out a bit too fast and then slow down. So in the latter stages of like a half marathon or a marathon, it's easy to pick off people that you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to overtake this person, I'm going to overtake this person, I'm going to overtake this person. So on the run sections of Hyrox, that can play into it as well. On mine, we were like the last wave of open women, and then the pro men came in after us. So I did get like, I've done quite a few cross countries, so those elbows came out and I was all right. There was a bit more pushing and shoving than I think there should have been, but that did fire up that competitive bit to be like, okay, you wait, once you've done 2 of your stations, I'm going to start thinking, okay, you in the vapor flies, I'm going to have you.
It's so true though, isn't it? Because also when you're on like lap 6 and someone comes out on lap 1, you're like, just wait.
Yeah.
You might be fresh right now on your first lap, but yeah, you can pick them up. I think that is a good way to do it. I sometimes use that as well when I'm running or doing something. I think it just, even if it gives you a focus to look at someone and start to try and like reel them in, you almost start to move a bit faster to get towards that person. It's quite a good trick.
Sometimes you get it in the park run finish funnel. Like I'll sometimes get a tap on the shoulder and someone will say, oh, thanks so much, you're really, I was really trying to hang on. People use each other in that way for that mental drive. So I know that I've overtaken guys in the race and then they have that like, oh, I've been overtaken by a woman, I'm gonna make sure I overtake her or yeah. So we all do it. It's fine. You don't need to say anything out loud. Just keep it in there.
Just keep it.
But,
yeah,
yeah.
Keep it and go for it. Do you remember in we did the Loch Ness Marathon? I got cramp at like I think honestly it was like 25 miles and I was near there, and there was obviously a guy that was using me to like stay behind me, and then I stopped with cramp and I was stretching out, and I think he thought, oh, I've nearly got her, and then I was like, oh, I'm nearly there, so I just started running again, and we got to the finish line and he was like, damn, I thought I had you because you stopped and you stretched, and just as he went to catch me, I like obviously had a word of myself and just like hobbled to the finish line. But yeah, you don't realize how many people use people during a race. It's quite a good tactic, really. We haven't had that one yet, have we? For like a mental.
That's a good one.
Game.
Yeah, really good. It's like healthy competition, isn't it?
Yeah. Even on the stations, you get it a little bit, don't you? If you, I don't know, on the burpees, I don't like you see someone burpee and you're like, oh, just try and stay with this person. Do another burpee.
Yeah.
And then we have to touch on, how did you get into the writing about all the fitness races? You know, you've obviously written about a huge amount and done many races like running and now Hyrox. How did this start, and is there anything that stands out from your journey of doing it, or what people say, or what you love the most about which events?
So I've always been a journalist, and my first job was on a local newspaper where I didn't last very long actually because I didn't really enjoy it. And I've worked in lots of different places. I've always written. When I moved to working for a cancer charity, that was like writing and editing patient information, and it happened that I started running at that time, and blogging was just like a new thing. So I started writing a blog about because this was even before Instagram. I'm like really dating myself now, but there wasn't that same social media thing. So I was writing about my experience of becoming a new runner because I didn't really know anyone that did that. And then that became a bit popular, and then became a book, and then I started writing for Men's Running magazine actually, which is long since gone, but a friend of mine that I used to work with, he was the editor of Men's Running, so I started writing a column, a female perspective column for Men's Running, and then when that he moved on and that magazine ended, and then I moved over to Women's Running and have written for them for like a long time now. My son's 7, and I think I've written for them since before he came along, so that's a long time. But I took over as reviews editor of the kit last summer, so I choose the gear that's going in the magazine, and send that out to different reviewers to write about the gear, which is interesting. And I've done a lot of different races that I've written about as well over the years. I've done marathon. We did an ultramarathon in Paris, which was a highlight. That was called Eco Trail Paris, and it started it was 80 kilometers, and it started way out of Paris, but went through lots and lots of different parklands. It was like 80% on trail, even though it was in a massive city, and then you finished at the Eiffel Tower, but on the first floor of the Eiffel Tower. So I remember
you couldn't get the lift to take it. You had to run up.
You had to go up the stairs, and I remember you could see the Eiffel Tower in the distance from quite way out. But my last 10 kilometers were the fastest 10 kilometers of the race, because some men had said something to me and laughed at an aid station. I didn't know what they were saying because they were speaking French, and my French wasn't good enough to tell. So I got annoyed and just ran. And then in the dark, because it was finishing, we'd set off about midday, so it was finishing in the dark. Every man that I saw ahead of me was those guys. So I was like overtaking everyone I could see. But then got to the Eiffel Tower. You ran over this little stage when the crowd were like cheering. You got given this token, And this all like really hyped you up. She's like, I'm there. Everyone's cheering. You go over the stage. You got given a token. You go to the stairs. You sprint up the first few stairs and then you die. And then you've still got a long way to go. And that was really horrible going up those stairs for that last bit. But there was free beer once you got to the finish line.
Oh, incentive. But
I mean, that's good Hyrox training, isn't it? Doing an 80k run and then going up the Eiffel Tower. That's uncompromised. Tired legs for you.
But what's worse, the end of an 80k ultra or 100 wall balls?
Oh God, I think it's tough. It's definitely tough. I think there's nobody saying no. Go back and do that step again on the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, and there was beer at the end. I mean, you could have got a beer at the end of the Hyrox, but it's probably not on tap as much as it probably was at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Could you get the lift back down, or did they make you walk? Yeah, I was gonna say
you got the lift back down.
Everyone seizes up at the top, and you just got loads of runners trying to get down the stairs.
All these experiences though, and like challenges and races just help for every next one you do. Like, I think you take things from each one, don't you? And then that kind of drives you on for the next. But it's very interesting, and you've obviously written about a lot. And is there any like kit tips that you could give people, or anything that you see a lot of that maybe something people miss or don't think about? Or
I would say to wear what you feel comfortable in. I think you definitely on Instagram you'll see a lot of Hyrox pictures of people in very short shorts and crop tops, and not everyone feels confident or comfortable wearing that sort of outfit. That's not at all mandatory. There's people in leggings and t-shirts and whatever. So wear what you feel good in. I wore a vest actually because I didn't want to lay down doing those burpees with my bare skin onto that rug. Now I was doing it on the Friday, which was the first day. I don't know what that rug's like on a Sunday.
A lot of sweat.
So I wore a vest and shorts. Mine was running gear. It was by Saw, so it was very lightweight vest and shorts. Don't wear Vaporfly. I don't think they're a very good choice. You see a lot of them, but something with a high stack, like the amount of time that a shoe like that is going to give you on the run is not going to be enough, in my view, to offset how poorly that's going to do on the sled push and pull. It's not a very grippy shoe, and the stack height is very big and not going to be the greatest thing for doing the lunges, say, or wall balls even. It's not the most stable. It's meant for running marathons and not for doing a Hyrox. So just wear again what's comfortable as a shoe for you, but think about the grip underneath, because you do and test that grip. Go and do your sled push at the gym or something and test out. One day I'd gone to the gym just in a pair of New Balance 1080. It's a comfortable running shoe that I like going in, but I hadn't really thought I'm going to the gym and I'm going to practice the sled push, and it was terrible. So think about the grip and the stability and doing all those motions, not just the running bit.
Yeah, I think it's good to practice your whole, like all of the exercises in whatever in your full kit, like not just your train. Yeah, because like, I mean, I wore a pair of shorts to the gym the other day, and then I got on the rower and I started rowing, and like my shorts were up, they'd pretty much disappeared. I was like, I don't know what's happened here. I can't wear these shorts to do a Hyrox. Like, I learned my lesson, but luckily I wasn't wearing them for a race. It was just training. But I do think but they're great for running. I've worn them loads running, and then I got on the rower and I was like, what is going on here? So I think, to test the full race kit is definitely a great tip.
Before I know you're going to jump into the cheeky insight soon, but before we do that, Laura, what's the opinion in the running world now of Hyrox? Do they think, like, is it going to cross over? Like, are runners getting really involved in it? Like, what's the opinion from someone that's so heavily into the running world? What's like with the evolution of Hyrox and like fitness racing? What's the running perspective from?
I think and I can only speak for myself, but I'm sit within a kind of mid-pack. So I'd see myself as a mid-pack runner. On a local level, I'm kind of age group. I'm kind of top 5. I'd look to be top 5 or 10 on a local level in my age, and definitely in my age group. But I am definitely a mid-pack runner of 43. So I think it's positive, and more people are a bit more curious and being like, okay, what's this about? I think we'll see more runners giving it a go, definitely. And I think that that's is a good thing, because we all, and particularly women, need to be doing strength training, and particularly as you hit my age group and beyond, we need to get that strength in. So I think it's positive. And I think that there's it seems quite inclusive and encouraging of an event, and I think it will hopefully be a positive thing for runners to get involved with as something different.
Yeah.
And I think that for going in like to your first race, like the open weights, you know, it's definitely heavy enough, but it's also not too intimidating. Like I think it's hard, and the strength exercise is hard. It's difficult to lunge with 10 kilos and do the wall ball with the 4 kilos. And I mean, the sleds are still heavy, especially the sled pull for the females. But I don't think it's too far where people don't think it's achievable. I think that's what's quite nice about that level as well. For someone that's maybe not done a lot of strength training, they don't think, oh God, I wouldn't be able to pick up a 10-kilo sandbag. Like it's something they can build up towards, and it's not hopefully too scary for anyone, which is quite nice.
I was just away for half term, and I one of the it's not I think what the thing about strength training is you don't always notice the difference that it's made to your life, and the improvements that's why when I started running, I was that little improvements that I was making, even though they were tiny, I could see. But I've had those moments less often with strength training, but I did have one where I picked my son up because we'd been out on this long walk and he was really tired. And I was like, okay, I'll carry you back to where we're staying. So I gave him a piggyback. And as I was walking along, we were like half a mile with him on my back. And he's a 7-year-old. And I was thinking, I remember when he was 2 and this was harder because I was less strong. Obviously, pregnancy and all of that had been more recent, and my core probably wasn't back to where it had been, but also I was just generally less strong. And actually carrying a 7-year-old now for me is a lot easier than carrying a 2-year-old 5 years ago.
Yeah, crazy. Like,
I remember
the impact on life.
Yeah, like quickly, this is my last thing before I go on to the cheeky insights. But Faye, I think you had a client, or were taking a personal training session. I can't fully remember, but then they had gone to pick up a dumbbell and thought like, oh, 6 kilos is, oh, that's too heavy, maybe I can't do that. And I think like Faye's response was, I'm pretty sure you've been carrying your child around, which is a lot heavier than 6 kilos. But you don't really sometimes think of it in that sense. You know, there is a lot of mums that are carrying like shopping and baby carrier and a kid and a backpack, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot. But sometimes maybe the number on the weight can make you think, oh no, that's too heavy. Whereas I think, yeah, people shouldn't be afraid, and it just shows over time you do like get stronger and stronger and stronger, and then you don't even realize that you've built that strength, which is quite cool. But I remembered that story. I was like, yeah, there's so many mums out there that are constantly probably got a 10-kilo sandbag on their back. Okay, shall we go on to the last cheeky insight questions? We've kind of done the first one already because we spoke about trainers and what shoes you wear, but which ones did you wear to do the race?
I wore the Puma DV8 Nitro 3, which have now brought out a Hyrox branded version. I had the orange ones. I have actually also got the nice grey ones that say Hyrox on them. But I had them already, and they have got a great grip. So they were my choice.
Yeah, no, that's
good choice.
Yeah, good to know. And then I know you've only raced in London, but what did you think of the venue? Did you like the layout and how it was?
I thought it was good. I had flashbacks because I did the London Triathlon there many years ago. So it was weird walking into that. And obviously that's where you go to get your London Marathon number. And I was like expecting the music to play, but it was a very different, more up-tempo music that was playing from the Hyrox. So that was good. The downside is that the toilets are right the way downstairs. That's really annoying. And my tip, because everyone said to me, "Oh, it's your first one. Oh, you're doing it solo. You're brave." And I was like, you know. And I think the generally accepted way is that you do a double and then you do a solo. But one, I didn't want to be responsible for anyone else's race, and I didn't want to, if you're injured, done all that sort of things, you've only got yourself to look after. But the other thing, if you're doing a solo, much shorter queues for the toilets. So. The doubles were going on when I arrived, and that was mad. And then when they'd all started and we got onto the singles, the queues went down a treat. So that was all right.
Top tip.
Yeah, that's so true. But I do remember after racing in London, going to the toilet and having to walk down the stairs, and I was like, "Ow, this is not good for anyone." We need them on the same level for sure. Okay, next one. Which was your favorite station and why?
Do you know what? I think I'm obviously after the running. If we're not counting running, that was the favorite of all. But I think I'm going to say the burpees, and I'm surprised by that. And I think it's not because I necessarily enjoyed the feeling of doing it, but because going into it, I was so worried about those, and it went a lot better than I was expecting it to. So I think that made me feel good, and why that maybe is my favorite looking back on it.
I think if you've got a good mindset as well, and if you can get through a marathon and and just do the keep going, keep moving,
just break it down, take a breath, have a pause, keep going.
Then it's probably quite a good mindset for doing them and getting them done. So I can see that. Okay, next one. If you could do a doubles Hyrox with anyone in the world, who would you choose?
I think I am trying to convince my partner to. I think that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Like, I mean, I could choose anyone in the world. Maybe I should choose someone. I don't know, but I'm trying to get my partner to do a doubles with me, because I said I wouldn't go back. But I think that a mixed doubles would be enough of a challenge for me, because I'm not necessarily keen to go back and do it faster. But would step up the weights, but give me that flexibility that I didn't have to do all of the bits. So maybe that.
It's like another challenge, isn't it? It's the same format, but a slightly different challenge in the same format. Yeah, it's good. That's a good answer.
Yeah, definitely. Are you the same running level? Would you?
No.
Would you be?
I'm a better runner than he is, but obviously he's
perfect.
Got a bit more strength. So
at least you'll be feeling good on the runs, though. That he can chase you around. Next one. Do you fuel for Hyrox, and if so, what did you use and when did you take it?
I actually forgot mine. I was so worried about all the rules and everything, and I was it was a bit opaque as to whether I could. To me, I thought the rules were a bit opaque as to what I could take on the course. So I did take some gels, but then I forgot. So I was trying to think about what I would do for a half marathon, and I was going to take a couple of gels, but I left them in my bag and it was too late. But it was Precision Fuel. They're the gels that I like.
And usually
a big dose of those.
Yeah, you would take that for a half marathon.
So I usually take probably 3 in a half marathon. I think I was planning to take 2 on the Hyrox, but didn't end up taking anything. So I just came the Lucozade in the rock zone instead.
Yeah, that works.
It wasn't Lucozade, was it? It's Red Bull.
Well, yeah, I think they've changed
Have
now,
they?
but I mean, a little while ago it was, I think maybe even an
There's a Red Bull
electrolyte
and there's
mix.
usually an
Yeah.
electrolyte drink. Yeah, there's always
Anything in a cup, I was just taking it.
yeah, just whatever it is. You don't even know what it was. Just give it me.
Okay, next one. What's your favorite type of training session?
I think it's probably would be that running to my circuits, running back, because it gives me enough of a run, and doing the homeward bit on tired legs, doing the circuits. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip for anyone listening. I think that's a really good idea. Okay, two more. Next one is, why should someone sign up for their first Hyrox?
Well, if you're a runner, you should do it because it's going to make you do the things that are going to make you a better runner.
Yes.
And if you're not a runner, then it's going to be a great way to get into running.
Yeah, that's very good answer.
Approach. There we go.
Yeah, love that. Okay, and lastly, is there anyone that you would like to see us interview on the podcast that you might like to hear more from?
Yes, I want you to interview my coach, who was Rebecca Speechley. She won her age group at Birmingham and is off to the World Championships in Chicago.
Yeah.
She's in the 50 to 55 age group, but she was really nice and really supportive. And I was, I've done a lot of fitness things. I was so nervous turning up to her Hyrox class that first time, but she was really supportive and really encouraging, and I think made a world of difference to my experience of the event.
Oh yeah,
perfect. No, that's great. We'll hook up with her. That would be awesome to have a chat with. I'm glad she made your experience of like going to the Hyrox a lot more enjoyable, because I do think sometimes it is just being able to like calm those pre-race nerves and the anxiety over like what you see on Instagram versus the reality of the event.
Yeah, and I'd gone on my own because my childcare fell through and everything, so my partner was going to come and ended up going on my own. But actually met another couple of mums in my start. They were the same, and so we were there all by ourselves. And it'd be lovely to go back actually and do it and have my family there, because the supporters get so close. But it was fine. If you go in on your own, you will find people to talk. I'm quite an introvert. You might not think that from me chatting here away, but you will find people, even if you're like me, you'll get talking to people in that start.
Oh, I think that'll really help people though. I think that'll put a lot of people at ease. It's nice to hear and nice to know that other people have had a positive experience, even turning up to race on their own, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
there we go.
I think that's us. Go for it, Faye.
Yeah. So Laura, for people that want to follow you, maybe see if you do that mixed doubles race, maybe find out a little bit more about running and follow your journey, see what next adventure, running race or column that you have coming out. Where can everyone find you?
Yep, I am on Instagram as Lazy Girl Running, online as Lazy Girl Running, on Substack, Lazy Girl Running, and my book, the first one is called The Lazy Runner. You'll be able to find that. And the second one, if you want to do triathlon, is called Try Curious. So I think that's everywhere. And every month in Women's Running Magazine, I'm there.
Amazing. I mean, that's a pretty epic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Usually we just get an Instagram handle. I feel like we've not had anyone plug a book yet, so I am there for it. Budding author, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate fitting us in, because I know how super busy you are, and hopefully we will see you at another Hyrox, because you have said now that you might do another one from going from never doing it again to yeah. We'll see. We'll watch that space. For everyone listening, thank you so much for your time. We hope you picked up some good tips, whether you're a runner, whether you're not a runner and you're going to try and get into running. Please follow this podcast on wherever you're listening to your podcast, on your podcast platform, and share the episode if you enjoyed it. And we will see you on the next podcast.